Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. It's kind of like the YouTube chat that Biojo was having earlier today, but instead this one kind of smells like old soccer jerseys and cerveza. Today we have we have a couple of guests with me. We have Naib over in Houston. How are you doing, Naib? How are you doing?
Great, great, Cesar. It's good to be in the show. It's been like I haven't been in like 2 weeks or so. It's good to be in the show with you and Jason. Um, Interesting stuff's going on and with Mexican football. I mean, the interviews that Turco has had, the league already has gone through 6 weeks.
Mhm.
Um, the Europeos. I mean, after at this point right now, the top two goal scorers, if we include the goals from league and the goals from Copa, are Vela and Tecatito Corona with 8 goals. I mean, who would have thought that Tecatito Corona was
Yeah.
going to be probably Mexico's best, scorer in Europe at this point in the season? So, I mean, a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, I definitely would have never guessed that. Like I think we'll definitely go on to this later, but he was one of those players that we've talked about this before, just like numerous reports that he was overweight. He wasn't working well with the team, but it's definitely a surprise. But we'll definitely talk about that later. And then we have Jason, who runs Soccer Mexicana, and actually he's been writing. I've been following some of his stuff, talking about the relegation battle, which actually I think is pretty great, and you guys should check it out over at Soccer Mexicana. Jason, how are you doing? How are you holding up with the cold over there on the East Coast?
Yeah, it's unpleasant, but we are surviving in between blizzards at the moment right now. So hunkered down here with some Libertadores and some Mexican soccer. But yeah, Liga MX is there's a lot to talk about. I think 'cause, it's just an interesting start to the season. A lot of the subplots, and with the relegation race certainly being an interesting one that I've been following closely.
So this is kind of a tangent because when I was introducing you, I realized. So when we introduce you, is it Jason Marquitz? It's a very very atypical last name. How do I introduce you in the future? How would we so introduce you?
I normally take whatever I can get because it's normally never right. It's Markwitz
Marquitz.
is how I would say it, but yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. You don't get that one very much. So yeah.
All right, so let's go straight into the news. So the big news from the weekend, at least from the Liga MX, was a firing from Carlos Barra from Monterrey, and it was somewhat expected from the squad, who really has an immense amount of talent. They brought over some new Colombian players, three of which, or those three players actually, who like played in the national team, and one played in the World Cup last summer. So they brought in the big news is they brought in Turco Mohamed, who is most well known for coaching America last season. So guys, what were your first reactions to that? To Turco Mohamed taking over Monterrey? I'll go straight over to Naib on this one. Naib, what were your thoughts?
No, I mean, it was something that kind of was there. I think the possibility of seeing Turco Mohamed come back to Liga MX after winning the title with America. He has a past in Rayados as a player, Turco Mohamed. Some of his family members live in Monterrey. There's a lot of ties to that city. The project in Rayados, has a lot of talented players. I mean, it's just immense. You see that squad. It has players from different aspects. Some of them are at their peak of their career right now. Some of them are just barely getting there. But I mean, I think it's a project for him that is enticing. Coming back to Mexico, Monterrey still has time to make a run to La Liguilla. And of course, I think there's that little revenge there. I mean, he is a current champion coach, to say
Mm-hmm.
the least. And he wanted another test and to, I mean, prove himself more in Liga MX. I mean, he already did it in Cholos, he did it in America, and Monterrey is an excellent project for him, I'd say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It seems like he was definitely the most eligible option, and it doesn't seem like it was too much of a surprise with the recent title that he won with America and that he also won with Tijuana. Jason, what were your thoughts on the appointment?
I'm normally someone who's inclined to want these managers to get some more time, and I wanted Barr to stick around for a while. I was kind of expecting the turnaround, because this is a talented roster. Monterrey were my pick to win it all this season, which I'm not feeling awesome about.
I definitely thought they would do well too.
So, I still, like, every week I expect, okay, we're going to see something a little more this week, and it just is never happening. So it's just like, it's kind of a relief right now that, to have another manager come in, regardless of who it was, to start fresh, get some new perspective on this, like, as you guys mentioned, this incredibly talented roster. I mean, there's some, we should get more out of them. So to see Mohamed come in, it's great. It's great to see him back in the league. And I hope he sticks around for a while. I hope he's there with Monterrey for a while and really, get back to some stability with Rados, instead of, since Vucetic left, it's kind of been a mess. So hopefully he sticks around for a while, gets this team back in some kind of contender status where they should probably be.
Yeah. What I was thinking about after I heard about the firing, and I don't know what you guys think, do you think that there is any possibility that perhaps there were problems like this earlier last season, but just because of the season that Dorlan Pavon was having, I think he scored 12 goals and 5 assists, and he had 5 assists, if I remember correctly. Do you think that may have masked anything that went wrong? Maybe there was like some sort of early signs that something could have gone wrong with Monterrey, but just the ridiculous rate that Pavon was scoring and creating assists for his squad, it could have covered up for those kinds of mistakes that could have been present.
I think the Monterrey is an interesting story because I remember when they eliminated Atlas in the last league. I mean, Atlas was a favorite. It was coming as a top favorite to win that tie against Rayados, and I think that's the moment when Barra won some type of respect from the directors, and maybe they thought, well, he can continue on with this project. He knew pretty much what Vucetic had done in the past years with Monterrey. He knew the ins and outs of that team. So, I mean, there was this possibility that the directors actually thought that Barra could take this ship with all these talented players that came in, Edwin Cardona, Alexander Mejia, Jimmy Chará, but it was hard for Barra to include those players into the team, I think. Mm-hmm. And it sort of seemed that he really lost control of the team in the early stages of the season. And I think that's why at the end he had to leave.
No, I definitely agree. And I guess it is a little hard to you brought in those new players, and most of them were attacking players, and you immediately thought that there was going to be some sort of complete change to the squad, and maybe they brought him over as well because they wanted them to complement the fact that maybe it's because Pabon is also Colombian, so they brought in those Colombian players as well, and that was something they were looking for. But perhaps he wasn't given enough time. Perhaps these were issues that that did exist last season, but I mean, I guess he's out now, and then we'll see what Turco can do right now. Do you guys have any last things to say about Turco? Maybe any predictions about how he'll do with Monterrey?
Jason?
I'm kind of looking like I'm hoping he looks at. Cause I think we're starting to get to a point where we have some players with name recognition on this team that really aren't carrying the weight at this point. So I'd like to see Mohamed come in and kind of start fresh, and I think he's the kind of manager to do that kind of thing, where he's going to kind of clean house a little bit, and kind of put in the starting 11 that he wants in his own mind and what it's going to look like, and that's kind of what expected him. He's got the reputation to do that. He has the backing, he's got the titles that he could command some respect and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and kind of turn some of those players around. So hopefully that's what we see.
No, that's definitely a good point, because you look at the roster and you see players like you see Pablo Barrera, you see Hiram Mier, John Terrasco, you see Efrain Juarez, you see the new Colombian talent, Zavala. And you do, but not Zavala though. I'm not going to add Zavala on that list. But you do wonder, how this team isn't getting more results. But yeah, like I said, we'll see what Turco can do. All right, so we're going to go back to Jason. So this is a segment now where we talk about the game that stood out the most. What matchup stood out the most, whether it was the worst, the best, whether perhaps something interesting happened. And Jason, what game for you from the Liga MX weekend stood out the most to you?
My favorite game to watch was Xolos Pumas on Friday night. It was just an excellent game. Really entertaining, really back and forth. The final score line with Tijuana coming up with the big win 3-0 at home, I don't think was really indicative of the play of the game, where Pumas really held their own. And I was actually surprised at how well Pumas played. They really showed me, at least me, something, if not themselves in the score. They played really well, and like I'm like really kind of I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing them play next week and seeing them going forward. Going into Tijuana is never easy, and I really think they put out a pretty good performance that didn't really show out. But we got to see a beautiful Juanarengo free kick goal, real golazo. Not a ton of defense from either side, really, but just an excellent game. And kind of looking at both of these teams going forward, Pumas with obviously a lot less expectations where they're sitting at the table, but I could see them gaining some momentum. They're still pretty young, and I think they could really get something going, make a Liga push, maybe. And Tijuana is obviously looking like real contenders at this point, looking really strong. So it's just an excellent game all around.
Yeah. What stood out to me in that game was, I think, Dairo Moreno. He had the flu, so he couldn't take part in the game. And even when Tijuana didn't have their current best striker, they were still able to score 3 goals in that match. Yeah, granted, like one came from a penalty kick and another one came from a free kick, but I think that says a lot about the squad that they were still able to like not have their best striker and still win a game at that by that margin.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean, what I would like to add, I mean, to the points that you guys brought up, you know, the season that Gabriel Lauch is having. I mean, this guy just came straight from Racing to Cholos, and he's just stepping up his game. I mean, the decisions that he takes is he kind of sees the passes in the shots that he's supposed to take before everyone else does. You know, he's really ahead of everyone of the 21 players that are on the pitch. And I mean, I think he's the main player that has switched this season totally around for Cholos. I mean, he makes the midfielders play better. He makes the forwards play better. I mean, Gabriel Lauche, for me, between him and Pulpo Gonzalez from Santos have been the 2 best Liga MX newcomers for this clausura.
Interesting. Now Agustin Marchesín?
Marchesín, I'll put him up there too, but I mean, the stops, you know, that Marchesín has had. But I mean, Pulpo has 4 goals, and Auche has been really influential in Cholos' offense.
No, that's definitely a good point. And you know, speaking of that, like you know, Cholos' offense, I believe they have more goals than any other League Max side right now. I think they've scored 13 in the last 6 games, so that's definitely very impressive. So we're going to go back to you, Naive, and which game stood out to you for the weekend?
I think the America 5, Chiapas 0. And for the reasons, I mean, it was the first game that Matosas had to play without Darwin Quintero, who has been really important for America's offense with assists. I think he's the leading assist man right now for America. He decided to play with 5 defenders, basically 3 center backs, Ventura Alvarado, goals, and Pablo Aguilar. You know, Pablo Aguilar was a little bit more midfielder, and then on the left, Miguel Zamudio scored his first goal in Liga MX. But I think the order, the balance. I mean, it was funny how America's this Matosas team that we had in mind that he was going to be really a goal-scoring machine. We see it with five defensive-minded players, you know, providing the balance. But that's a big move, and I think. The goal that Osvaldo Martinez scored is really good for his confidence, and also the games that Ventura Alvarado has had since the past Liguilla. I mean, this kid, you know, he was just preparing for this moment that was going to come at one point, and it's now, and he's taking advantage of it. Really, really confident right now. He's looking.
So kind of a tangent, but Ventura Alvarado, you know, if I remember correctly, he is Mexican American, and he seems to be doing really well. Is he the kind of player that maybe we want to call up with perhaps in the next few friendlies? Because I guarantee that the U.S. men's national team is looking at him right now. Jason, what are your thoughts on Ventura Alvarado? Do you think he is someone who is capable of playing with the Mexican national team right now?
I think, well, whether he's capable or not, I think he's someone you want to try to lock up as quickly as possible. I mean, I guess there was a U.S. national team scout at that game as well, watching, and I mean, there's talk that he might be called up to the U.S. team in March. So, he's something you might want to just grab as quickly as you can. I mean, it looks like there's going to be a little battle here for him. So we'll see which way it goes. But I don't know. I mean, he's young, but I mean, certainly, like as Naive said, like his performances thus far have really stood out, and it's certainly a position that Mexico needs to reinforce. So, any defenders that look like have some potential, yes, grab them, slap that Mexico shirt on them, and see what they have for the summer.
See if they get along with Massa and Rafa, and then let's just see what happens.
Well, I didn't say that. I mean, because I don't know how that works. I wouldn't say like a ton of guys would just fit in with Massa and Rafa. I don't know about that, but maybe sneak him in there and try not to say too much. So I think the advice I give him.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Ventura, we've seen a little bit more emphasis, him leaning towards playing for the U.S. men's national team. I mean, the people that cover the U.S. men's national team have interviewed him. That there was a scout that game, like Jason pointed out. Piojo Herrera was also in that game, just to emphasize. I mean, he watched that game, that Chiapas America game, and I think there's Piojo coached Ventura Alvarado when Piojo was America's coach, so he knows them personally. I mean, I think it's just gonna come down to who convinces him more. I mean, if Piojo picks up the phone and already called them and told him, "Hey, I really liking how you're playing," well, it's up to him. I mean, I think he's played all his career in Mexico, and I think playing for the national team Mexican national team would be really enticing for him, equally as playing for the U.S. men's national team. It all that comes down to what he really wants for his career.
Yeah. No, we'll see if he does get a call up, and I wouldn't be too surprised if Jurgen Klinsmann were to call him, because I think in the January camp for the U.S. men's national team, they called this one guy who plays for Coras. I forget who. I don't even know his name, to be honest. Like, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I forget who it was. Something Morales.
Vaquerito Morales. Yeah.
Yeah, and that shows how much Jurgen Klinsmann, the U.S. men's national team, is willing to reach out to those players. So if there's this guy who could play for the U.S. men's national team, who's getting pretty regular time with America, then you must assume that the U.S. men's national team is looking at that player. So going back to America, I think the 5-0, that was something that we've all talked about as well. We thought it was just only a matter of time before America started clicking, before they started working together, and unfortunately for Chiapas, it just happened to all start working, last week. And that Ferrari that everybody was talking about, Gustavo Matosas finally figured out how to run that thing. So any other?
Just a last remark on Chiapas, Cesar, and just, I mean, I wish I would have seen Chiapas with Aviles Hurtado. I mean, Aviles Hurtado picked up a muscle injury, so he really didn't even play in that match. But he's been really important for Chiapas. Excellent start to the season, and I think it would have been nice to have seen Aviles Hurtado, who's a naturalized player from Colombia, top scorer in Mexico, and also Benedetto. You had the two naturalized forwards that are at their best shape right now, playing that would have played against each other.
Mm-hmm. Hurtado, and he's been the one who's been keeping Chiapas alive. He scored 5 goals and he has assist with Chiapas right now. So when I heard that he was having those muscle problems, it was almost like it was foreshadowing the fact that just like Chiapas were going to struggle, at least in the attack, against America. So I guess the defense just failed completely for them, and there was just nothing that they could do in the attack. Okay, so let's see. So we'll go to the game that I want to talk about, the standout game for me, and I guess it just stands out for me just because I'm kind of a Chivas fan, but I don't like to talk about it too much because it's a little embarrassing. But so we're talk about Chivas 0, Veracruz 0. For me, it was just, that's exactly what Chepo wanted right there. That I think the past few games, those are the exact scores that he's looking for. He's just looking to scrape by. He's just looking to get those 0-0 scores. And the fact that Veracruz came up pretty strong at first, and it was very, very worrying for Chivas. I thought there could have easily been at least a goal in the first 5 to 10 minutes. But eventually, Chivas gained possession. They slowed things down. But, they really didn't make anything of the attack. But I don't think Chepo really cared. I think that he was honestly shooting for a 0-0, and I kind of made a joke. It was like a half-serious joke, but I obviously was joking on Twitter, saying that like, you know, the reason why Chepo got thrown out was just to kill time. He just wanted to kill time. He knew like he could secure that 0-0 by getting thrown out of the game. And it's really, as someone who does, you know, support Chivas, it's I can understand why Chepo is doing what he needs to do for the team and why he needs to set up the team like that. But it's really awful to be watching those games, you know, week after week. Jason, I don't know if you got a chance to watch the game, but if you did, what were your thoughts on the match?
As you said, that first 5 minutes, it really looked like this was going to be just a complete dumpster fire for Chivas. Like, at least three solid chances for Veracruz in the first 5 minutes. So it looked like they were just going to roll them. Chivas really took control of basically the rest of the match. I feel like they had the better of it. But as you said, like, never really that threatening going forward because they're really setting up to defend. So, you know, it is what it is. It wasn't a great game. I don't know. They're in a lot of trouble, Chivas. Like, they really can't afford to stick around that 1 point per game margin. They really need to go for 3 points here. You would think home games against another relegation contender is the time to do it, but apparently not. So, I mean, you would have thought by now that with all of the new signings Chivas brought in, they would have gotten a few more wins, gotten a couple wins, put a little distance, but, you know, it seems like almost they're banking on that Leones Negros, Puebla, one of these teams is going to dip below them, but I don't know. Like, you just don't know. Leones Negros haven't looked great, but, you know, they could rocket up with a couple wins with the small amount of games in that percentage. And Puebla coming up with a win this weekend is just, oh man, it's scary times right now in Guadalajara.
I mean, I guess it's a win against Monterrey, which at this point anybody could beat Monterrey, but now Turco is in charge. Who knows? Right?
Apparently.
All right, Naib, do you get a chance to watch the game? So, what were your? Yeah.
I did had a chance to watch a good chunk of the game, and I mean, when I see Chivas, I try to think, what positives can I take out of the team? I mean, you know, what has impressed me the most? And I gotta say that Carlos Salcedo has impressed me. You know, I think there's some reliability in having a player like Salcedo in the team. You know, and Pereira's also playing good as center back. I mean, I think that the two of them have made a good duo really quickly. And it's important, you know, for a team that's in a relegation battle to have two good center backs. I'm still questioning Salcido because of his lack of speed, and Deditos, who's on the right back position, who's really not a right back. He's a right midfielder. But having those two center backs, and especially Salcedo, because right now we're talking about Ventura Alvarado and the need to have young center backs, Mexican center backs. You know, Salcedo is a good story. I think he came from the Raza Lake right away, and he's a starter. You know, so I mean, I think that's something positive in all this turmoil that Chivas appears to be.
No, I definitely agree with you. And I think even going back to last season, I honestly think that Chivas' defense wasn't that terrible. Yeah, they made some pretty bad mistakes every now and then, but I think it's all in the offense, which is what's lacking. And it is good that, you know, you did make a good point with Salcedo. He's transitioned like extremely quickly into the team. Like, it almost seems like he needed no time to adapt with the squad. He's just immediately working well in the center of defense for Chivas. But yeah, it's all in that attack. I think, you know, Fabian was a little non-existent in that game, but Rizella was all right. You know, and there's only so much that could be said about, like, you know, the Nigris and Bravo. And I think the only reason they brought in the Nigris and eventually Chaton was just like, well, if we're bringing in crosses, we might as well bring out the tall guys and see if they could eventually knock something in. But
yeah, and of course, I mean, the whole deal with the forward precision in Chivas is, I mean, I would accept, you know, if Bravo or the Nigris were knocking in goals, like, you know, like it's nothing, you know, I would kind of see sense in not having Cubo Torres on the bench at all. Yeah. But, you know, if Cubo Torres has been amazing forward in Chivas USA, where in Chivas USA there was really a lack of chances to score, but the little chances Cubo Torres had to score, he put them in.
Yeah.
And Chivas is a team that really has two or three shots on goal. And Bravo is not the guy that's going to put them in. I mean, even if he's the captain or whatever. Or this guy, Cubo Torres, he's been in a national team. Has Bravo or the Tigres been in a national team? No. Cubo Torres is a forward that could easily put one or two of those shots that Chivas has on goal, maybe put them in. And I see it really unjust that he's been critiqued because of a supposed dive he had in Torreon against Santos. All this stuff was created like Nestor de la Torre said something bad, something vulgar in the stands or whatever. But it's creativity. I mean, in that area, anything can happen. And if Cubo believes that, kind of making a little fake that he was gonna dive and winning a penalty kick, it would have been good for Chivas. So I mean, little crazy stories right there.
I just don't understand. I mean, like maybe Cubo really pushed for the loan, but if you're bringing him on loan until the end of the summer, and I know like Dynamo don't want him. Houston Dynamo do not want him sitting on the bench, and they don't want him either. Like just playing the Copa MX every now and then. They want him to getting regular minutes too. Like if you're bringing him out on loan, then what? And if you're just having him sit on the bench, what's the point? And if he's proven so much to the national team, and if he was on excellent form in the MLS, I mean, people criticize MLS, but it's a decent league. Piojo himself has said that it's a good league as well. Then it's really confusing. I know that that Chepo he kind of relies on veterans, but it's just extremely confusing why you wouldn't even give Cubo even just a little bit of a chance. He brought him in. I believe it was 2 games ago for just like Chicharito-like minutes. But I don't know. It's really unfortunate to see that in Guadalajara.
No, there's no explanation for the Bravo and Denigres out there. There's just no explanation. It doesn't make any sense. It's just a bad move. And it just seems like Chepo is kind of going for experience. He's putting like the most experienced guys out there to get Chivas out of this. And there's some logic to it, but not if you want to actually score goals.
And I guess that would also explain, why Toño isn't currently playing in goal as well. He's just all about experience at this point.
Right.
Anything else? Oh, what was that?
No, unfortunate for players. Toño didn't do anything bad last season. I think Toño last season was one of the best players in Chivas. His only fault is for being young. I mean, but it's crazy because Salcedo is one of the young guns in the team. Salcedo, and he's actually playing. All of a sudden came, but the center back position was one of the positions that really worried Chivas last season.
No, I definitely agree with that. Anything else to say about Chivas? And I feel like I'm not feeling that well now that we've been talking about Chivas for 5 or 10 minutes. I gotta switch it up.
Got a big Copa MX win tonight, though. So there you go.
There you go.
It's all good, Chivas.
I actually have been following the Copa MX. Jason, any updates or anybody any updates on how Chivas are doing right now? Or I guess
they won 1-0 with on a shady penalty call, but still, that's fine.
I'm seeing it right now. 1-0. So the Nigris got a penalty kick, and then they won 1-0. That somehow seems very appropriate. I don't know why in the Copa MX.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to a few of the other games from the Liga MX. So we have from last Friday. It was Querétaro 1, Cruz Azul 2. Jason, the streak is over, man. Are you all right? Did it break your heart? Did it feel just as icy as the icy cold snow over there on the East Coast?
It was a bummer. It was like the one thing I was hanging on to, Cruz Azul. Like nothing's been pleasant to watch. Like we don't score a ton of goals, but at least we haven't let anyone score. Now that's over, so I don't have a lot to hang my head on. Top of the table is what I'm gonna say now, as until the next horrible loss comes along here. But undefeated and top of the table is what I'm gonna hang my hat on at the moment.
You got your MVP up top, Alemão. By far the most talented striker
Clearly.
in the league and best
Signing
player
of
on
the season.
Yep. He's been. We had that like small little chat on Twitter, but his passing is. I don't like his passing, and his one-on-one skills are pretty awful. But the guy tries. He really does try out there, and it's
right place at the right time kind of guy.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
He is so much better than Pavone as well. That really needs to be said. The man he's replacing is just so much better. So.
Naive, anything to say about the Querétaro Cruz Azul match?
I mean, I think the Querétaro. We'll see what happens in Querétaro. I mean, there were rumors this week that Nacho Ambriz was going to be the other coach who's going to get fired from the club, but he's staying. It's been tough. It's been tough for Nacho Ambriz in Querétaro. I mean, the injury from Camilo Zambeso in the beginning of the preseason. Then they brought in Patricio Rubio from Chile, and he's still kind of adapting to the league. Ronaldinho, I mean, I wrote an open ed, this op-ed today on Ronaldinho, and I mean, it just looks like he's having a vacation in Mexico. I mean, Ronaldinho, it's just a bunch of smiles and a lot of charisma, but on the pitch, it's not showing at all. I mean, he seems too disinterested on the team's causes, and that's really sad to see how this whole project of Querétaro being on the map, it's not turning the way that it should be. I don't see Querétaro as a Liguilla team at the moment.
Yeah, I don't. It's not too surprised for me. He said when he came into the league, he said he wasn't going to change his habits. That he said he had those habits, when he was winning titles, and he was going to continue, doing those habits, which we've kind of seen over Instagram and social media. But I don't know. I think he's just a very immature player at this point. I don't think he's still posting those pictures of him, like partying with girls, and I guess he can get away with it because he is Ronaldinho in the end. Even after all this, if he was walking down my street, I'd be super stoked to meet the guy. I would love to meet this legend, but yeah. I don't know. I can't imagine that things are getting any better for Querétaro. And as we've talked about in the past as well, when Ronaldinho joined Querétaro last season, things didn't get any better. Querétaro were pretty close to making it into the playoffs, halfway through the season, I believe. And then Ronaldinho joined, and it didn't get any better. And then they eventually didn't qualify for the playoffs. And it's a very unfortunate thing to see with the club, and like you said, with Sanveso out as well.
Yeah, okay, I think as you guys mentioned, he's an exciting player to have in the league, but as long as he's not playing for your team, you don't actually want him on your team playing at this point. Because he's not a positive impact. And watching that game and watching all Cruz Azul's matches, Cruz Azul, this was their most dominant performance despite giving up the goal. They completely controlled that match, and they were better in all aspects of that match. And Querétaro looked like a complete mess. I agree with Naive. They are not going to make any kind of run and make it to the league. They're just not a good team right now, and they look like a complete mess.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm sure we could talk about Ronaldinho for hours and hours and hours, but we should go on to the next game. So pretty quickly talk about Puebla 2, Monterrey 0. After I didn't actually get a chance to watch the game, but after I saw the scoreline, I knew that Barra would be in trouble, and it's obviously a massive win for Puebla, who are in danger of relegation as of this point. And I'm sure Jason knows about this as well, since you've been writing plenty about it. And you've been doing a good job, actually. I highly recommend it if you haven't checked out his stuff on Soccer Mexicana. But right now, Puebla are just slightly above UDG, and Leones Negros, and then Chivas are above Puebla, and Veracruz are above Chivas. So Puebla's just gaining some very, very much needed points last weekend against Monterrey.
So they basically sit 3 points behind Chivas because they're on even terms. So, and then with that wild card, Leones Negros at the bottom. But like I said earlier, they could hop up with a couple wins. So Puebla's still in the hot seat, Leones Negros in the hot seat, and Chivas right above that. Veracruz can drop pretty quickly too with some bad losses, but their performances are showing that maybe they can kind of hold out a little bit. But I think you guys mentioned in the last podcast that the schedule does get tougher for them as well coming up here. But surprising score, and Puebla have 3 goals coming into that match in all of their previous games, and then scoring 2 in Monterrey. So as we mentioned before, it does tell you a little bit about what's going on with Monterrey at this point too.
Yeah, most definitely does. All right, and then moving on to the next game, Tigres 1, Morelia 0, which I deemed to be the most predictable scoreline from the weekend. Tuca Ferretti must have seen Morelia. He was like, oh We're just going to sit back. We'll take our time. Eventually, something's going to happen, guys. Don't worry. We'll just take our time. We're eventually going to sneak in one goal against this team because I think Tigres, all but one of their matches have ended 1-0. So the 5 of their 6 matches this season have ended 1-0, which is says so much about Ferretti. His tactics being his tactics. And the current state of the team. It seems like they're going to continue finding these 1-0, probably maybe 0-0 ties every now and then, and then probably sneak into 6th or 7th place in the end of the league and into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, the goal that was scored by Tigres was from Dueñas, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Cesar?
Was it Dueñas? I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to look it up. I forget who.
I mean, but if it was Dueñas, I mean, today Piojo Herrera said that on this hangout he had is that he's possibly going to be either in the Copa America squad or the Gold Cup squad. Dueñas is a player that plays in the midfield. I've seen him play midfield, forward, right back. He plays various positions for Tuca Ferretti's Tigres. The games of Tigres, I mean, they really, you never know who's going to be the scorer. I mean, at one point, Juninho was the top scorer of that team. So they brought Solvis from Brazil, and I don't even know when he's going to score his first goal in the team. But they don't need it. They got other players that can pitch in the goals. It says Morelia is another team that has troubles with the coach as well.
Yeah.
And we'll see if Dena keeps his job or is removed as well.
Yeah. And speaking of Silvius, eventually he's going to score a goal, and I'm predicting that because sometimes I like to play as Tigres on FIFA 15, and Silvius is great. His long shot ability on FIFA 15 is amazing. So that's my prediction. He's going to be scoring soon. Don't you worry. That's my very, very well-educated, very thoroughly researched guess right there. Is just based off my
insight right there.
Yeah, FIFA 15 abilities. All right, so we're going to move on to the next game. León 2, Leones Negros 1. So, like Naib said a couple weeks ago, is it the Luis Montes effect? Just having Montes back over at León, and suddenly they're finding these wins. I think they haven't lost a game in 4 matches. They found wins in their last 2 matches, and suddenly they're looking like they're doing all right. Looks like Juan Antonio Pizzi is finally making things work for León. Jason, what are your any quick reactions from the León win over the weekend?
Yeah, it's typical León. It seems like they kind of have gotten righted the ship a bit, starting to take control of the games. They're really racking up the shots. One thing you always see with León is just the high volume of shots taken and really just so deadly going forward. And you're starting to see that again with them, and hopefully we start to see, especially for the national team perspective, starting to see that Peña Montes relationship in the midfield really starting to take off again. Because that's something we really like to see with the national team again too. So, but again, we'll see. It might be just a product of who they were playing as well. So.
Yeah. No, I would love to see Montes back in the national team. You just add him to the huge amount of midfielders that we currently have at the moment. I think it would be kind of great to see him back onto the team. Now, you have any quick thoughts on the León match?
I think William Yarborough. I think he's back. I mean, he's had a good 2 great
saves. With his 4-fingered glove.
Yeah, with his special glove. Great game from Yarborough. Getting that confidence, getting important blocks, saves. That Leones Negros, the Leones Negros was close to getting the 2-2 tie, which would have shook up this relegation battle. León is still working. BC is still adjusting to Liga MX, I'd say, but it's good to see Sabá and Martín Bravo become more important in the offense for León. Bravo came from Pumas over to León, and it has taken him a while for him to get adjusted to that team. And Chema Cárdenas and Elias Hernandez have done well. It's going to be interesting to see if Luis Montes, once he goes into the starting 11, who's going to be the one on the bench, or who's going to be benched, Elias Hernandez or Chema Cárdenas?
No, definitely. I think I feel like he should hopefully have an impact. I don't blame Pizzi for slowly incorporating him into the team, because you don't want to be taking any chances with a player like Montes, because the last thing you'd want is for him to re-injure something. anytime soon. So best luck to him. And I loved watching Montes from the games that I've seen him, and just I saw him live once, and unfortunately it was the one time I saw him live was the time when he injured himself, and it was that actually like almost like ruined my day, like a couple days. It was but I don't know. Maybe I'm bad luck. Maybe if I find the next time that he's gonna be playing, I should just avoid it and watch him be outside or something.
Yeah, but Montes' attitude is just remarkable because that day he scored a great goal. He had a great play with Giovanni Dos Santos on the left, and then Montes just took that shot, long shot, typical long shot that Montes takes in his games. And after the injury, he said, he put on Twitter, "Oh, how beautiful my goal was," saying, kind of, instead of talking about the injury, that it just had taken him off the World Cup list. So I mean, a great attitude from Montes, and glad to have him back on the pitch.
Yeah, likewise. I'm really looking forward to having him back this season. So the next game that we're going to go to is Atlas 1, Pachuca 3. I think that was the Jurgen Damm show. He got a goal, he got an assist, and he got a shout out from Piojo as well recently. Piojo mentioned him, earlier today during the YouTube chat that he had live, and he said that Damm is definitely a possibility, for the national team now, and I would love to have him as an option. And also just because I like saying the word damn because I'm 12 years old, and I just like using that in that context during soccer, just saying damn every now and then. So Jason, do you get a chance to watch the Atlas match? Any thoughts on the result for Atlas or Pachuca?
Certainly I think Tom mentioned it last week, but Pachuca's definitely that team where definitely the most exciting team to watch in the league right now with these young players. Mexican national team affiliated young players like Damm, like Lozano, like seeing these players come through and really shining and really coming together now that they're back with the team. And it was, maybe Atlas was looking forward to tonight's game a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's a definite possibility there. But, two teams I'd expect to see in Liga and two excellent teams at this point. So, good win from them. Not much more we could say that about in like this early part of the season, but good to see Pachuca kind of rounding into form with their full roster in place.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was something they were missing at the beginning of the season, where those young players like Eric Gutierrez, Edwin Lozano. So I think they're going to make a push for the playoffs. I think they're probably going to sneak in at the very end. But like Tom said, yeah, I love watching them play. They're definitely an exciting team with the youngsters that they have. Especially that promising youngster Conejo, in the back. All right, now you have any quick thoughts about the game?
Damm. It was Damm's best game. It was a damn good game from Damm. I think the assist, the goal that he had, it's a kid that will just keep getting better. As the same can be said about Eric Gutierrez and Chucky Lozano. And it's exciting to see that. Not that many Mexican teams give an opportunity to young Mexican players. We have all these foreigners with naturalized players and so forth. And so it's and also Diego Alonso is a really young coach. He was a great forward when he was a player in Pumas and so forth. So great pointers they will receive from Diego Alonso.
No, I definitely agree. And we'll see how Atlas does. I'm not sure any updates about how they're doing right now in the Libertadores. Anything interesting? I see the Monterrey is winning 5-0 right now in their Copa MX game. So I'm guessing the Turco effect is in effect. I guess you could say, but yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Oh, I guess Atlas is currently tied 0-0 with Santa Fe. So best of luck to them, and shout out to Tom and Wiso. Our some of our fellow co-hosts over here are currently at the game right now. They had better things to do than to be talking with us. All right, so let's go over to the last game of the weekend. Toluca 2, Santos 2. I think that Toluca were definitely the better squad, but it was just Pulpo Gonzalez, with his 2 goals for the squad that it's saved the team. And like Naive was saying, he's definitely had a fantastic season with Santos. Naib, any quick thoughts about the Santos match?
I mean, I think it was a response. The two players, I mean, all of Marche and Pulpo, who came from Lanús, Caixinha followed them for a couple of months. Caixinha even went to Argentina to meet them both. So I mean, these are signings from Caixinha. I mean, he picked them specifically. The club went that far of getting what Caixinha wanted, and now we're seeing the results. I mean, it was a slow start for Santos, but they're picking up. And it's one of the teams that, it will be interesting to see. I mean, I wouldn't say that they're a contender yet, and the reason I don't say that they're a contender is because they're forwards. I mean, they're not reliable. Chuletita's not reliable. Giannini's not reliable. Renteria's not reliable. So maybe if Giannini picks his game up, maybe he might be that forward. But right now he's not looking like that, and Renteria misses a lot of shots as well. When these guys can step it up a little bit and be more consistent, then Santos is a team to reckon with.
Yeah. I'm just
nail on the head.
Go for it.
Nail on the head. I don't trust Santos at all going forward, but it's nice to see a manager in place. Apparently, long term, like through some rocky times, a plan is in place, a manager is in place, and they're going forward. And it seems like they're building. Definitely not there yet. They have a puncher's chance going, I think, this season, but not something I trust going forward right now. But maybe in the future, maybe a season or two from now, they really start to all come together, possibly with Santos.
All I'm thinking about now is just Chuletita and some of his recent games in the friendlies for the national team, and that was frustrating to watch. That was so frustrating to see him up top. I do not want him near the national team anytime soon.
I've sat through like a lot of like strange Wednesday nights in Estadio Azul with Chuletita taking like 15 to 20 shots against like some strange like Santo team like in like Copa MX and stuff like and like just the sheer volume of his shots that were just miles away from the goal. Like, no, not a trustworthy striker. No.
Yeah. It's settled. We'll all send over a group email to Piojo tonight and just let him know. Just like please, like just not anytime soon, man. Not anytime soon.
No more.
All right. So let's go over to the Champions League. Tomorrow is a big day for Mexico fans because we've got Basel versus Porto and we got Schalke versus Real Madrid. I highly doubt Chicharito is going to get any real playing time. I guess we can go into that game really quickly first. Do we think that Chicharito is actually going to play tomorrow? Jason, do you think he's going to show up? Maybe he's going to be on the bench. Perhaps he's the luckiest guy in the world because he has front row seats to the Champions League.
I'm not even sure who we're talking about at this point. Is he Mexican? I don't know. I don't know. No, he's not gonna play. I hope he goes somewhere else. I hope he moves this summer. I got nothing there.
Naive.
We'll see. I mean, it depends on how the game goes. Real Madrid right now they're struggling. I mean, I think it's pretty evident. The lack of midfield prowess that the team used to have. Modric is not playing, and that kind of hurts the team. The center backs. The Pep is going to play, I think, but Sergio Ramos is out injured. Last year Real Madrid played Schalke in the round of 16, and Real Madrid just whooped Schalke. I guess it was 6-1, I think, and
it was more than 5 goals. That's all we know.
Yeah, it was more than 5 goals. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen again this season, with Roberto Di Matteo as the coach for Schalke. But, it's really hard for Chicharito to play tomorrow. I don't see it happening. I mean, if Real Madrid has a 4-0 lead, maybe Chicharito might play. But other than that, I don't see it happening tomorrow.
Yeah, I definitely don't see it as well. So let's go over to Basel versus Porto. Porto, they did excellent in the group stage. They actually, I should have researched this, but I'm pretty sure they didn't lose a single game in the group stage.
You're
sure.
Correct.
Okay. They've done very well. They're going against a Basel team, which is, it's a little surprising. Not everybody expected them to make it to this stage of the Champions League. So Porto are going to be a little lucky. Basel's probably going to come out like pretty strong, recognizing how lucky they are to be at this stage. So it's probably a pretty tough battle. But in consideration of the Mexicans abroad, I'm pretty sure Herrera will start. Hopefully, he'll get another goal that'll put it as one of the top goals in the Champions League. But Diego Reyes, he is not on the roster, so that's definitely unfortunate. But that's not too surprising though, either, to not see Reyes on the roster for Porto tomorrow. Anything you guys want to add about Porto versus Basel tomorrow?
I mean, Herrera has 2,203 minutes played this season. I mean, I think he's a Mexican player that has had the most minutes in Europe this season. He's going to start, and we'll see. I mean, on paper it looks that Porto is a favorite team, but the coach for FC Basel, he's Portuguese. He played for Benfica when he was a player. I don't remember his name right now. I don't recall. It's something Sosa, but that's something to keep in mind, that he knows how the ins and outs of Porto. So Porto can be that overconfident of having the better squad per se, and has to take the game seriously.
No,
being a Liverpool fan, I watched a good deal of Basel in the group stage, and unfortunately, I don't know. Yeah, definitely a good matchup. Despite getting through, they didn't show a lot. Not the most impressive of knockout stage qualifiers. So definitely a good matchup for Porto, and hopefully Herrera can put on a show for us.
Yeah, no, likewise. That's. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. That's what I'm gonna be hoping for. Like, I'm just gonna be sitting there watching for Herrera and then checking every now and then to see if what Chicharito is doing on the bench. I think he's given up on Flappy Bird. I know for a while that was his thing, was playing Flappy Bird and posting constantly about his scores online. All right, so let's quickly go over some of the other scores, some of the most noteworthy things from the Europeos. Raúl Gudiño, he's a goalkeeper that we sometimes talk about, but we definitely should bring him up because he played in UEFA Youth League, which is essentially all the squads who qualify for the Champions League, all 32 squads. They send the under-19 squads to play in a youth tournament. And Gudiño, who's on loan from Chivas, he's currently 18, so he's currently playing with the Porto B squad, and they called him down to play with the under-19 squad, and he had a fantastic game for the Porto U19 squad today. They played against Real Madrid in the round of 16. It ended 1-1 in regulation time, and then they went into the shootouts, and Gudiño stopped two of the shots, and the last shot actually was the one that secured the victory for them, and it's massive. And I think this must be a high point right now for Gudiño, and Porto must be looking to sign the player, and they'd be ridiculous not to sign the player right now. Naive, you're any thoughts on Gudiño?
Yeah, I mean, so I did some research on his buyer class. I mean, Zancadilla, who's a writer in Reforma over there in Cancha in Guadalajara, and he said that the buyer class for Gudiño is basically 2.5 million euros. So I mean, I think based on the games that Gudiño has had with Porto and Porto B and with this team in the youth league, I think his Porto is already thinking about taking charge of the buyer clause and actually getting the player. Gudiño will be in the U20 World Cup in May with the U20s. It's just this whole experience. I mean, it's new. He went over there to try out basically, and he's impressing. I mean, it's seizing the moment. These kind of things, were unthinkable 10 years ago in Mexico for a young 18-year-old to go try out at Porto or Gama, who's in Atlético de Madrid from Toluca. These are new stories, new developments that are due because the Mexico youth national teams are a powerhouse. Clubs actually pay attention to Mexico's youth 17s, youth 18s, youth 19s, youth 20s, all these levels. And I think Gudiño's is a success story. Probably the first success story if, in fact, Porto buys him from Chivas after the season.
Yeah, he must be looking at Chivas situation and just thinking, like, that is the last place I want to be right now. I want to get as far away from that place right now and just hang out in Portugal where I'm getting to play against the Real Madrid under-19 squad. And right now Chivas are currently playing the Copa Americas, and that's where I'd be getting some playing time. So. Jason, any quick thoughts on Gudiño and his prospects for the national team?
Nice to see Mexican goalkeepers playing in Europe.
Yep.
That's better.
He who shall not be named.
That's right.
All right, so quickly going over, I guess we're running out of time, so I'll just quickly run over the score. So speak up, you guys want to say anything about these players. So Guardado, he took part in the PSV's 4-2 win over AZ Alkmaar. Big deal for him because he got selected for the Die Telegraaf. That's the biggest newspaper in Holland or the Netherlands. Got selected for the team of the week. Raúl Jiménez played for about 18 minutes for Atletico Madrid. Rafa Marquez, actually, that's something I wanted to clear up. Usually I'm pretty on top of all this Europeo stuff, but do either of you know, I was a little confused why Rafa Marquez was on the bench for Verona in the 5-2 loss to Genoa. Maybe he was tired, maybe they just gave him a little bit of a break, maybe they're... but it was actually quite strange to hear that he was on the bench for Verona. I don't know if you guys heard anything.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything. I actually didn't. Yeah. I should have done a little bit more research on this case.
Me too,
but I mean, I don't know if it was. He's played a lot of games. I mean, Copa, League, but I mean, he hasn't been the Rafa Marquez from León, to say the least, in Verona. I think it's taken him a while to get acclimated to Serie A. I mean, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, if we see a consistency of Rafa Marquez on the bench, then that's red alert kind of sign saying that he's not showing up to the occasion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think perhaps they were just giving him a little bit of a break. So we have Giovanni Dos Santos, who missed a crucial chance against Rayo Vallecano over the weekend. Still waiting for a little bit more consistency from him, but it's a little bit understandable because of his recent injuries. Layun took part in the ridiculous... It looks like every time I watch like a Watford game or just hear about a Watford game, it's just there's at least 5 goals involved. He took part in the Watford 4, Bolton 3 victory over the weekend. Moreno took part in all 90 minutes of Espanyol's 2-0 win over Malaga. Obviously, Ochoa did not play in that game. Tecatito scored for 20 in the 4-2 win. And Hector Herrera, let's see, he took part 65 minutes in the victory for Porto. And then one last more, we have Davila, who played 12 minutes for Vitória de Setúbal in the 3-0 loss to Benfica. Anything stand out for you guys from the Europeos? Anything do you guys want to talk about really quickly about any of those games for the weekend? Jason, sorry.
Jason can go first. Yeah.
It's just the Tecatito run is still something that is just so fascinating, and it's just so great to see. So, no great insights about it or what he's doing. Just hooray for Tecatito.
No, I definitely agree. Naif, you were saying?
I mean, just quick on just kind of seeing how the effect that it could have with the Europeos and El Tri. And when you see the midfield players, Guardado has 1,864 minutes for PSV. Layun already has 628 minutes with Watford. Jonathan has 1,541 minutes for Villarreal. Herrera, I said earlier, 2,203 minutes with Porto. Aquino has 982 minutes with Rayo Vallecano. And Layun is on a pass. He's probably going to have more minutes than Javier Aquino. So there you have Herrera, Jonathan, Layun, Guardado. I think those are going to be the key players in El Tri. In the World Cup, I think the players that have had more minutes in Europe, and I think the stronghold of El Tri will be the midfield. I mean, I think it's really, it's good times to see that midfielders for El Tri are playing constantly, and that should help in the long run.
Yeah, and it's definitely nice to see that with some of the worries that we're currently having in defense, and some of the with the injury to Vela and Chicharito Raul Jimenez not getting a lot of minutes right now, and Giovanni Dos Santos still finding regular play, a little bit more consistency. It's nice to see that we do have a lot of options in the midfield for the squad right now. If there's anything else for you guys to say about the Europeos, I wanted to go on to 2 quick questions. I wish we had a little bit more time, but I guess I think we're going past an hour. So first, I chose kind of a serious question. I chose kind of a joking question that some people asked us. So I'll go first with the serious question. So at Sean Driscoll 96 asked us, what are Santos' chance of winning the Clausura, considering the other options, how well that America are doing right now, and like the recent run that Santos have made, and Cruz Azul and Veracruz. We all bring them up right now, but I'll go over to Jason first. Jason, do you think Santos are going to make it into the playoffs, and if so, how well do you think they will do?
I mean, they have a chance. I'd expect them to make the playoffs. I don't see them going anywhere or doing anything. Like I said earlier, I don't really trust them going forward, and we mentioned the forward position is sketchy. So they're a team on the uptick right now. I don't think they're there yet. Everyone has a chance in Liga. I just don't think they have a very good one.
I think anyone has a chance in Liga is a very, very true statement, isn't it? I mean, like I was saying, who knows? Maybe Leon. Well, I brought this up in the last podcast. Maybe Leon will make it into 8th place and take on that first place Cruz Azul, and then we'll see what happens in these playoffs.
Lovely. Yeah.
Naive, any quick thoughts about kind of an arbitrary question that I just chosen here, but any quick thoughts about how Santos could possibly do?
I mean, I think that the key will be. I didn't have a good midfield with Molina, Pulpo, and also Quick Mendoza when he's there between Quick and Salinas. It's just a forward position. I mean, if Giannini can start scoring, then and I've heard great things about Giannini in training. I mean, people from Santos say that he had offers from West Ham for to take him after the season, last season. So I mean, there's something in him, and I think he has all the advantage. Chuletita's not a challenge for Giannini. If Giannini starts scoring goals, this kid can do something, and if that happens, then I think Santos will be a team to reckon with.
Well, we'll see what happens in this season. I think right now my favorites to win the title are America, Cholos. I still have Cruz Azul up there. Who else are right there? I think Monterrey will probably sneak in as well, and I think Santos may possibly make it in a very last spot, but I don't think they'll go very far. And then for a final question, and I'll go over to Jason first, since he apparently wrote a very long treatise, a very long essay. It's spanning just pages and pages of just very, very deep thought. So this is from Brian RMW, and shout out to Brian because he helps out with the Mexico Top 25. He's been helping out, I think, for about a month now. Which is the best snack for the Champions League, Jason?
So yeah, this is an important question. So I really, I haven't thought about something this long in a while, but I think you can go a couple ways with it. You could go topical, depending on who you're watching. You're watching Porto, go with like a salted cod, typical Portuguese dish, or Marsa, some butafara, something like that. But really, what I think it's all about for me, us in the United States here, is it's about the time zones. West Coast, you're kicking off around noon, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
You're settling in for a long lunch. You need something to soak up the cerveza you're probably going to have while you watch the game. So you get back to work afterwards. So you need something heavy, but not heavy right away because you're going to sit through 2 hours. So it has to be substantial, but it's kind of picky. So I said something like a pizza makes sense here. Something like I would even say if you want to really go the chilaquiles route, I wouldn't say no to that either. But if I'm moving over to the east, well, it's never too late for chilaquiles. But,
that is
East Coast 3:00 kickoff. It's snacks all the way. It's starting to not matter if the cervezas get soaked or unsoaked. It's okay. We're headed toward the afternoon, the late afternoon at this point. So something light, perhaps European. I'd go with like a Greek yogurt, perhaps some various cheeses, depending on what countries you might be watching. Maybe a little hummus, something like that. So that's where I'm looking at. It really depends on where you are, both mentally and physically.
Wow. Naive, can you follow that?
Oh
No,
man, I don't think I can.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm simple. I mean, I'm chips and guac. I'm a chips and guac kind of guy all the way. Uh, chips, guacamole. I mean, I think
even if it's Porto or if it's starting at 3 p.m.
Yeah, guacamole 24/7, Cesar, I think. You know, guacamole with the huevos rancheros, guacamole with the tacos and everything.
I have a very simple answer. I was just gonna say tortas and beer. I'm happy with tortas and beer. That's all I really need. But now Jason's got me thinking about chilaquiles, which is by far my favorite food in the whole world. And any of you want to become best friends with me, if any of you want me to be I will do anything for chilaquiles. Not everything. I don't want. And actually, now I'm gonna get some bad feedback from that. But chilaquiles by far is my favorite food in the world. So I'm going to say that I agree with Jason. Chilaquiles, anytime, watching Champions League, it'll be beautiful stuff. All right, so I guess that all right, I guess that wraps it up for today. Thank you guys. Thank you for everybody who took part in the chat. Thank you to Brian RMW and Sean Driscoll who asked us those fantastic questions. We'll see if me or Wiesel can try to incorporate some more next time. I think it's kind of fun to end the show on that note. Be sure to find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, go on iTunes, and just go over and give us 5 stars, or give us 4 stars. You can be honest. If you hate this, give us 1 star. It's all right to dislike the show. We just want you to be honest. Other than that, any final note, guys? Any last things you want to say? Maybe last minute snack recommendations, Jason?
No snacks. Looking at the Libertadores match here, and Alice is playing pretty well. Still can't find the goal though. So hoping they got about 25 minutes left. So hopefully we see a goal coming here. We need it in the home match here.
What about you, Naive? Anything else to add? Any guacamole recipes at the last minute? It's all about the cumin. You got to add a little cumin.
No, I think it'll be interesting to follow in the next weeks if there's actually going to be a naturalizado en el Tri for the Copa America or the Gold Cup teams. I mean, we're already entering the 7th week of games. There is reports that Piojo is following several players that are naturalizados. We don't know who they are, but we could have an idea of who they are by the numbers. Benedetto scoring goals, Hurtado scoring goals. Grosas was the best passer in the Apertura last season. Those are names to put out there. We'll see the developments, and you never know. Maybe there's going to be one called up for the March games.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll be all right with Benedetto. I'm not gonna lie. I'll be okay with it, giving him a chance to see. Maybe just have him work with Peralta, like they do in America, and see how well they do. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Maybe the Chaco comeback.
Chaco. We'll play him and Senior. I think him and Senior right in the middle. I think it'll be some beautiful stuff for the national team.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. All right. See you guys later.